pass along to you. So have you guys ever been on a listing appointment? Okay, so this is good to get a start, but really, you know, you gotta get the listing appointment first. So I think that Noah's probably working really hard to work on, you know, how to get your leads and lead sources and so on and so forth.
That's what they're all new to business agents, so.
So, are you guys all gonna be focused on listings, or are you guys looking at being a buyer's agent or a list? Because in my experience, and this isn't much, but you know, you can be both, but you really need to take the time and figure out what you want to be. So if you want to be a listing agent, then hey, really focus hard on listings, focus on your presentation, focus on your leads, focus on those type of leads. You attract your vibe, right? So if your vibe is listings, those are the type of people you're going to attract, people that are looking to sell. If your vibe is buyers, then those are the type of people that you're going to attract, right? So you got to kind of really hone in on that, and then once you do, if you're, I've experienced, if you're a listing agent, the buyers just kind of come, because you now have listings, so they see your name as far as listings go, or you have a friend of theirs that you've listed their house that are looking for an agent, they're looking to buy. So I found, and I was just a buyer's agent before, and you don't have people coming to list their home with you when you're looking for buyers. But when you're listing, I'm finding that you attract buyers as well, and then you're able to take your list of buyers and match them with the listings that you're starting to create. And then once you have enough buyers and you have enough listers, you can double your commission, right? Because now you're getting both sides of the.
Well, I'll tell you guys.
You're getting both sides of the deal. So it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. It's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would be doing really well. Only 3% of the agents in the entire Orlando area that do, 90% of the business. Then you have a small segment that do medium business, and then all the rest do no business because they don't want to do the work. Just don't want to do the work. And I'm sure Noah's preached that, because I mean, he's the only guy I've ever met that went door knocking. So.
In the 90-degree heat.
Oh, you're the only guy I've ever talked to that's ever been on door knocking. Like, I won't. I'll send, flyers or, postcards before I do any door knocking, but that's really bold. It's not for me, but other people it's good. So that's the first thing. So listings are, for me, that's really been my direction. So that's why I went through and I really honed in on my listing presentation. And this will be a lot of information. There'll be a lot of questions in your mind. I'm here. You can pick up the phone, call me and ask. If you're working with Noah and you guys want to call as a group, whatever. Whatever I can do to help, that's the most important thing. So I help you guys, and then everything else goes. I think that when you help people, it comes back to you twofold. I mean, regardless if there's any money involved, I feel that when you help people, it's karma, right? It comes back.
We'll always say, James. We'll always say.
Super. Oh, with the 50% of something is better than 0% of nothing. No?
How about done is better than perfect, right? That's the way I feel. So as long as you're doing something and it's leading you toward the end goal, and at least it's done, right? Something like that. So,
Do you want me to?
I don't know if I'm gonna. I'm gonna go ahead and just go through this, and then afterwards I'll show you guys how to get to what. I'm gonna show you guys another little tool that I found is very helpful too.
Do you want me to try to get you on the TV?
Nah, it's cool. So this is my listing presentation, okay? And it doesn't just start with this. And I don't call this a listing presentation anymore, because I feel like when you call it a listing presentation with a customer or a client, that it feels like automatically you're trying to sell them. Right? You're trying to sell yourself, you're trying to sell something, right? Everybody's a listing agent, right? And what is a listing agent? I mean, really, right? It's paperwork, right? So it's a customized home marketing plan and pricing plan. Because it's customized. It's customized for your customer. It's not, generic, it's not something that you're just gonna pull out. So that's the first thing that I've changed in my presentation. I don't call it listing presentation, I call it the customized marketing and pricing. And the first thing I do is I go into the house. It doesn't start just with talking about, when I go to the house, meet them at the door. Typically they like to try and take you around the house and talk to you about stuff. Well, I like to make sure that we go right to the table initially. And we sit down and we get set up. And I like to get set up at a kitchen table or a dining room table, because if you're in a living room, it's really kind of informal, and typically they're far away from you. And I like them to be within, body language, kind of eye shot, ear shot situation. And I like to be able to take this and hand this to them so they can look at it together. Bring 2 copies, because I want the husband and wife to be together, or the group of whoever investors are together, so they can look at it together, right? And they're not missing anything, they're not questioning anything, it's all right there for them, okay? So when I go in, I start talking to them and I start asking questions. And the reason I start asking questions like, what do they do for a living? What do they like to do for fun? What do they like to, what are their habits or hobbies? What kind of car they drive? And the reason I like to ask that is because I like to learn what their personality is, okay? Because not everybody wants to be sold like I want to be sold. Well, I don't want to be discussed or talked to like everybody else wants to be talked to. Okay? Everybody has their own way that they like for example, I go to a car dealership. I don't like car salesmen coming up to me and like bombarding me, right? It makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Other people are like, oh yeah, I just want to go talk to salespeople, right? So just different personalities like to be, handled in different manners. So that's why I like to have a conversation with them right off the bat. So, what they do for a living. If they're a salesperson, then you know that they're an eye. Like they like to interact with people. They like to talk, but they don't like to have a huge long presentation. They want to know the exactly what you want, what direction you're going. If you're an S, like an engineer, man, they want to go through every single solitary page. So at least that's how you want to present. That you want to take your time and go through each and every page. Give them the figures and the numbers, because those are the type of people that want to know. They want to know everything, and then they're going to question the numbers after you give them the numbers, right? So, and you really got to know who you're talking to before you can start, just going through a presentation. Because some people are going to look at it and roll their eyes, and other people are going to be like, oh, yeah, well, that's great, So, you really got to kind of know who you're talking to. After you sit and you talk, chat a little bit, get to know each other a little bit, go tour the house. And as you're touring the house, take notes. Hey, they'll tell you about something they remodeled, take a note about the remodel. They'll say something about the light that was their grandfather's. Well, you now know that maybe they want to take that light with them, and when you write the listing contract, that you don't want to leave that light in. You want to take that listing out of the listing packet. When you do your listing, the light doesn't convey, because if it's not in the packet, then you have somebody that comes along and wants is buying a house, you're gonna have a problem. They took that light out. I wanted that light, right? So you got to make sure that you ask those questions as you go through the house, and you talk to people, and you really start to get a feel for the house and why they're moving, where they're moving to. Because that's the next question, right? Why are you moving? Right? Well, if they're moving because they want to upsize, that gives you an opportunity to now become a buyer's agent, right? You have an agent. Why are they talking to you if they're moving? So you got to really start to get the story, because every single solitary situation has a story, right? And as I'm walking through the house, that's the other thing I like to do. I like to take notes about the house, right? Because every house has a story. Some people moved in 20 years ago, they raised their kids, they've, had communities there, whatever, Every house has a story, and I do that because what I do is I create a personalized YouTube video about every house. And when it goes up on a YouTube page, and then I can take that YouTube link and I can add it to my listing, my customized marketing program, when I send it out to potential buyers. So if I get a buyer that's looking for a home and they say, hey, I'd like to go tour it. Well, hey, I've got a personalized tour on YouTube that you can click on and take a look, right? And then I take that personalized YouTube video and I chop it up into little pieces. And we're gonna start using it on Instagram, we're gonna do it on YouTube Reels, and we're gonna do it on, so we're gonna use that YouTube video to also help grow that. And that's all part of my listing, my customized marketing program. Okay, so after we get back to the kitchen table, we learn a little bit about the customer, the client. I start with this first packet. Now this packet is very thick. It looks like it's done, there's been a lot of work done to it, and typically that impresses people. This is an RPR report. Okay, if you guys don't know what RPR is, I really suggest you take time and you go and you do an RPR training. Okay, this is what they call a seller's report in RPR, and I know that I've showed him it before, but you can go in, you put the address in, and RPR will automatically give you a valuation of the property. So you don't necessarily have to sit down and take all of the comps from the area, and you don't have to take all of the listing, all the previous sales and immediate listings to come up with your comps. I still do that because I like to make sure that, because RPR makes mistakes every now and again. Also in RPR, you can go in and you can adjust your comps. So let's just say you have a home that's in a neighborhood that is a $200,000 neighborhood, but your client has done all kinds of upgrades to it. You can go in, make the adjustments and the upgrades to adjust the comps, so that way it shows up in the RPR report with a more attractive sale price. So once you go into RPR, you're gonna already have your profile set up from your MLS, because RPR is attached to your MLS. So your profile is already all set up on there. That's gonna print out on your page, your picture and everything. And the home that was listed. Now this is the same presentation I gave, so this is a home in Davenport. And the next page here, I have what they call your comparative analysis. Okay, it comes up on your RPR report as well. So you'll see that there's a range here between 336 and 378. Okay, and then it gives you a count number 357. The reason this is because there are newer homes and there are older homes. There are homes that were updated. There are homes that maybe weren't as well updated. Okay, and then the next pages in here just kind of go through the comps that we pulled in order to get that particular pricing. Then what I do is I go in and I do what they call a strategic pricing analysis. And this here, I take the time and I go through and I actually pull recent activity, and I do recent sales, and then recent listings, and then recent solds. I typically try to take 3 to 4 so we can get a good pool of what's there. And then this particular strategic pricing analysis breaks everything down for you and then gives you a suggested pricing, which is down here. It comes in at about the same as it did with RPR, between 340 and 342. And the reason I bring this is because I like to have that discussion with my client and then have them sign it, because they now have agreed with you that this is your price. And later on in the presentation, you understand why I do that. Okay. So, but as long as they agree with this pricing, we'll have them sign it. Now, through the rest of this, it just kind of gives the basic facts of your property, okay? And then once we get to the back of this, I also go up and I do what they call a net sheet, okay? And the net sheet it tells me exactly what they're gonna, well, not exactly, but pretty close to what they're gonna actually make on the house. And then if I have, through public records, you can get what their actual mortgage is. You can put their mortgage into the net sheet, and then it'll show them exactly what their equity is in their home, and what they'll get at the end of their sale. So this is actually usually at the end of my presentation. Throughout the presentation, as we're discussing things, you'll have them asking you a lot of questions, like, especially if they've interviewed other listing agents, because I mean, you'll find that most people try to interview 1 or 2 listing agents. I mean, 80% of people will use the first agent that they talk to. I like to be the last agent to go in, because every agent tells everybody the same thing, right? I've been selling houses for 10 years. I promise you we're gonna do this. I promise you they all say the same thing, right? What you have to do as an agent is you have to stand out. You have to, make sure that you have some value propositions that other agents don't have. And you can utilize things that I've done, or you can utilize your own things, because everybody's different. So everybody may have their own take on things, okay? So once you start getting into, after you've agreed that, if you bought the house and you've agreed that, your pricing is where it should be, talk to them a little bit about the numbers, and you can go through the entire presentation if that's the type of people you are. Then you go into, how, because they're gonna ask you how you're gonna sell the house, right? So I have something that I call the boss guarantee. Now my last name is Boss, so that's why I call it the boss guarantee, okay? And what I do is I guarantee in writing to my customers my clients, what I'm gonna do for them. Okay, and here's some examples of what I guarantee. So, my team and I will guarantee that we have a sign in your front yard. So a lot of times you'll have an agent that gets a listing and it takes them forever to put signs in the front yards, right? So I guarantee that you'll have a sign in the front yard within 72 hours, if permitted by the neighborhood. A lot of times you have neighborhoods that aren't, don't allow signs or whatever. The type of sign is, like for example, Legends, they have their own specific sign that you have to have for the yards. So, and if I don't have that sign in the yard in the first 72 hours, it costs me $250. Now I'm telling my client that, hey, I'm gonna have the sign in your front yard, because otherwise, it's gonna cost me $250, right? The next guarantee I have is my team and I will guarantee you have professional photos, and these are things that you're gonna do anyways. These aren't things that are anything different than anybody else. But what you're doing is you're putting that value proposition to it when you're presenting it like this. So I guarantee you have professional photos and videos scheduled within 5 days. Okay, that should be no problem with the photographers. If it's not completed, I'll deduct $250 from my commission. I also guarantee, some other things I guarantee is I guarantee that I'm gonna communicate with them every week. Okay, if you don't communicate with your client every week, you better look for another line of business, because when you have a client that you're selling $500,000 or $600,000, $700,000, you need to let them know what's going on. So even if you call them up and say, hey, how's it going? We've had 3 showings this week, we haven't, whatever it is. But as long as you communicate with them, that's important. If I don't communicate with them at least once a week, it costs me $250. This customer's going, holy crap, right? You're digging in your own pocket. So, I guarantee that there's gonna be a smooth closing process. Now this one will typically cost me money, because we don't always have smooth closing processes. But that's one of the biggest issues when it comes to clients. They want a smooth transaction. So if you can tell them, okay, you can tell them I want you to have a smooth transaction, but if you can guarantee you're gonna have a smooth transaction, now you need to make sure that you work as hard as you can to make sure those, and that's part of that tour we did about the lights and learning things about the house, because that's gonna help the smooth closing. So my team and I will work toward a smooth closing process, ensuring that all necessary paperwork is completed correctly. Now we have a transaction coordinator, right? She's phenomenal. I don't have to worry about that part of things, right? We have a great title office, right? If we're listing the property, we have the title company right here. So it's not hard for me to guarantee that we're gonna have a smooth closing, because we're all right here, right? So complete it correctly, and that the sale completed as efficiently and smoothly as possible. This will ensure that you receive your funds. That's important for the seller, your funds, and buyer takes possession of the property without delays or issues. If this is not possible, I'll deduct $250 from my paycheck. And then my last guarantee, I'll guarantee if you decide to work with and agree to our pricing strategy. Now, that goes back to the pricing strategy ahead, our pricing strategy and marketing tactics. You will have an offer within 60 days of being listed on the MLS. Now, that's a very open question or open statement. 60 days, you're like telling them you're gonna sell a house in 60 days? Well, no, I said you'll have an offer in 60 days. Does it mean it's gonna be an offer you want? Maybe not, right? But it's an offer. So as long as I have an offer on the table within 60 days, now mind you, in most communities and areas right now, average days on market are, does anybody know what the average days on market is? Super important.
Is it like 50, 60?
Super important. Yeah, right now 56 days is the general in Orlando area. Now,
It was like 30.
well, it depends on, we'll get more granular later, but we can talk about that. So, you have an offer review within 60 days of being listed on MLS. If you do not receive an offer, I'll deduct $500. Now, let's look at this whole picture, right? Let's just say you don't accomplish any of these things, right? What's it gonna cost you? $1,000 when you do sell the house? You're making $15,000 on a house.
Well,
Okay, you're gonna lose $1,000 because you made a mistake. Okay, well, let's not fight to make, let's fight not to make a mistake, but you're committing to this client that you're gonna sell their house. You're gonna commit to them, that you're working for them. You're not just gonna tell them a bunch of stuff. This is a huge and really important piece of paper when it comes to your marketing plan.
Hey, Troy, I have a question about that.
Sure.
So, I think you kind of touched on it at the last part. So, is the whole guarantee contingent on them signing, I guess, whatever the home price value that you estimated?
Yes, that's why in my last paragraph I put, my team, I guarantee if you decide to work with us and agree to our pricing strategy and marketing tactics, you will have an offer within 60 days. So one thing you'll find with sellers is they want to tell you, they think they know better than you. You know, they want to tell you what you should do. Well, I mean, you're a professional. You gotta make sure you stay in that role and not allow them to do that. And that's why you tell them, you agree with my marketing tactics and my pricing strategy, and that's where your strategic pricing analysis comes in. And they've signed it. Now you know they've already agreed to that pricing strategy. Well, this should be really easy. And then the only reaction that I've had to this boss guarantee is, wow. I mean, no, that's honest. That's like, I've never had anybody not go, wow. Like they're in total shock. Right? So then the next question that comes up is, hey, you know, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do to make this happen? So I have the boss personalized marketing plan, okay, that I've put together, and it's relatively, it's 10 solid marketing processes to go, you know, to start with. And I really like to give them the walk back direct at that, is I give you a personalized YouTube video highlighting the best features of your property, and we create a high quality tour of the property, showcasing the best features and amenities of the community. So I do an entire YouTube video on the home, where it's located, in reference to shopping, schools, and I'll do you know, the amenities that are in the community. Like for example, I'll be doing one this week on Legends. I'm going to actually do a Life from Legends YouTube video of all of Legends, because it's there's so many amenities. And then I'm going to be doing a YouTube video on that particular property itself. And then I'll tie the two together when anybody's looking as a buyer. The reason also, and you have to think, you know, have to think long term. In doing things like this, other people see this. And then those other people that are looking to sell their house, well, I want my house sold like that. Right? So now you need to start to make a name for yourself, because you're doing things that other agents aren't doing. And you know, I'm not afraid to offer this to anybody, because quite honestly, 90% of the agents don't do the work. You just don't. I mean, it's that simple. So if you want to win, you have to do the work. Nobody's going to do it for you. So I do a personalized YouTube video. I do a personalized mail flyer to the homeowners that are in the neighborhood. And I do that, well, we haven't done one yet, but the goal is to do a postcard to every neighbor. I call it the nosy neighbor tactic. And the reason I call it that is because every neighbor's nosy about what's going on in the neighborhood, and they see a for sale sign in the yard and they want to know what's going on, right? So I call it the nosy neighbor postcard, and I send a postcard out with the listing, the current listed price, and then, we're gonna do a neighbors only, open house, just for the neighbors to come and see it. And the reason for that is A, they may have a friend or somebody that's looking to move to the neighborhood, and B, they may be looking to list their house at some point too. So, not only do you open house for buyers, but you're open house for sellers too. Okay, and then so you do like an open house from like 10 to 12 for just neighbors, and then like 12 to 3 for anybody. So this way you have that, you know, you make the neighbors feel special, right? 'Cause I mean, everybody wants to feel special. So we do mail flyers to all surrounding homeowners. We do a video text, so I've developed a video text for each house, and what we do is we do your circle prospecting. Have you done circle prospecting with them? So circle prospecting, you can take it a step further. Instead of making the call, if you can get their numbers, you can send a video text out to your KV Core, and you do a mass video text, and it goes out to every neighbor around, hey, you know, this is Troy, where I finally just listed the house 3 doors down from you. You know, it's listed at this price. Are you curious about the value of your home? Have you thought to maybe possibly selling your home? So, or maybe would you like an equity review? Or, you know, we can look at it any way. You can create any kind of video you want. You know, but you create that video for those customers around that particular listing.
Do you generalize the video and send it on mass, or is it individual?
Yeah. So like, for example, I just picked up 2 listings over in Margaritaville, right? So I sold one in Margaritaville, and then I went into PropStream, and I squared out Margaritaville. I did a skip trace, got all of the owners' names, phone numbers, and email addresses, and I loaded them into KV Core. I did a voicemail drop, I did a text message drop, and then I did a video drop. It cost me whatever KV Core's cost is for those particular services. I picked up 2 listings at $650,000.
And that pays for it pretty much.
Yeah,
It doesn't just pay for it. I mean, it cost me $9 a month for
Yeah.
a voice drop. Okay.
You can use
So that-
PropStream or Homestead.
Yeah. I mean, I got there's a whole bunch of things. I use PropStream because that's all I've ever worked with. But I mean, it's just, you don't have to be that video marketer. I mean, I'm not a very good guy on video. I mean, I'll just say it. But I'm trying. I'm working on it. You know, done is better than perfect, right? So I write a blog once a week. You know, so a lot of what I'm doing now is I'm trying to create the blog to match the video. So like I did a blog on all of Legends last week. So I'm gonna take that Legends blog and I'm gonna just take a piece of each one of the blog and I'm gonna do a video on it. So, I mean, it's just, today's market is so tough, right? I mean, we have to realize our inventory levels are at all-time record lows. Our interest rates have impacted the buyers a little bit. So, I mean, the agents that aren't doing the things they need to do, they're just not gonna, they're just not gonna make it. I mean, it's not, I'm not trying to say that, you know, but it's just not gonna happen. So, at any rate, so I go through my entire marketing plan, which, you know, I also post on Craigslist, so I've got a buyer database of 1,500 people from KV Core. I print like 500 of my buyers on there, and I bring it with me. And I go, listen, I've got 500 buyers sitting in my database right now looking to buy a house. Right?
That's a big one.
They're like, really? And if you bring a list of even 200 people, right, on 2 or 3 sheets of paper, right, you're like, wow, those are all real buyers. Right, so you can coordinate the listing based on your buyer profiles in your KV Core. And all you gotta do is print them. So every buyer in our company, and if you guys don't have a buyer's list, there's somebody in the office that does. So, and you don't have to lie, right? You don't have to lie. You can say every buyer in our company's database. Well, Iron Valley is pretty freaking big, right?
I say that all the time.
right? So I mean, you're not lying. You're not being deceptive, it's true. We'll receive, every buyer in the company's database will receive an email flyer with the YouTube link and a blog. So I do the YouTube link and the blog to my whole database of buyers. Not only does that create interest, but it also gets clicks to my website, which then in turn improves the SEO. So
I have a question about your website. So with your website, is it the IDX website or is it like your own personalized website?
I have my own personal website,
Okay.
but you can use the Iron Valley.
So can you just explain, I'm sorry, I'm not asking.
No.
I guess can you then explain the benefits? Because I have a personalized website. I don't really use it though. But should I, like, what's the benefit of using it compared to like the IDX?
Well, Iron Valley owns your website.
So you don't own your
Enough said.
When you're marketing the Iron Valley website, you're marketing Iron Valley.
Yeah.
You're not marketing you.
Gotcha.
I mean, I use the Iron Valley website. It's connected to my cable board, but I also have my own. So like if you go on if you look Troy Boss up, I'm Troy Boss / the Boss Agent. Okay. You go on in my business profile on Google, you'll see that my business website is on Google. But if you were to connect for an appointment to me, it goes to my Iron Valley website.
Okay.
So my website is integrated with MLS. I paid a shit ton of money for it. But they can look up homes and just like they can on the Iron Valley website. So, and then I write community features that I add to the blog and YouTube. Community open houses that invite the public. I do a postcard marketing program, just listed and just sold. And you know, they're reasonably inexpensive. You can just do a small area. You don't have, postcards aren't that crazy expensive. So, you know, some of the other things I like to, present to the buyers, also are regrets that I've found throughout the times that, people have listed their house or sold their houses, and I give them a list of regrets, 4 regrets sellers have. And depending on how the conversation is going, how people are feeling, I'll go through their, through the regrets. But the number one regret is the price. The home pricing was incorrect, right? So if the house sells too fast, customers feel that they got gypped, right? Because it was priced too low. Or if it sits on the market forever and they have to reduce the price, then they feel like you duped them and you were just trying to make them think that you were getting, so you really need to make sure that the pricing is correct. One of the other things, unappealing online curb appeal. So, a lot of the clients will say, they should have done something with the outside of the house or made it look a little bit better to get more money. The reason I focus on these regrets is because I don't want to be that person that goes and walks into somebody's house and you're trying to help them with their listing and you start pointing out all this stuff that's bad, right? So I do it through the 4 regrets they have, so people can really take a look at themselves. Hey, maybe my curb appeal's not there. What do you think? Right? And then they're asking me what I think. I'm not telling them, hey, maybe you should get some new bushes. Well, what's wrong with my bushes? Because we all get in that kind of mindset sometimes. Understanding the timing. So, that goes back to, talking about days on market, knowing, your days on market, knowing, what's going on in your market. As to whether it's the right time or not. So like we're going into the spring market. This is the most important and best time to sell your property. People are going into the spring market. This is when they move. So typically, 30 to 40% of your business is done in the spring market, April, May, June, July. And then you start getting into the summer months and things kind of fall off. And then you get into the holiday season and things kind of fall off because people are, back to school. And so this is prime time. And then ignoring repairs, you know, a lot of sellers regret that they didn't repair things when they should, maybe like, you know, spot of paint on the wall, or, you know, whatever it might be, a stain on the countertop, you know, and again, it goes back to not pointing that out to them, right? You know, so in the conversation you're having here, you know, what are some of the things that you think that, you know, you should do to the house before we get it listed, right? Because they'll tell you what they think, and then that's when you go through these regrets with them, and you say, well, these are some of the things that I found, you know, in other companies, other clients, and things that they regret they didn't do to make their presentation a little bit better. Okay, and then after I'm through with all of this fun stuff, and it typically takes, you know, again, depending on the clients, depending on their personality, it'll take, you know, 45 minutes to an hour maybe. Really depends on how much they like to talk and how much you want to, you know, how much you want to learn about them. But after I get through with all of the presentation, and then I'll ask them, you know, so how did you feel about my presentation? What do you think about my marketing plans? What do you think about, you know, the pricing? And then if they agree with everything, and typically, like I said before, they go, oh wow, okay, well that's great, because I have our exclusive right to list through phone here, and I'll bring my listing paperwork out, and I'll go through with them, and everything that I talked about in this basically shows up here as far as pricing goes, and getting it listed on the date, and I have them sign it right there. Now this isn't the entire listing packet, right, when you go to MLS, but this gives you a commitment from them that they're gonna work with you. Because I don't know if you guys have experienced or not, but you can be with somebody that's going, oh yeah, that's great, and then, you know, you walk out and 10 minutes later they ghost you,
Yeah.
right? Well, this doesn't allow them to ghost you, because now you've got a signed contract already in place, and then you tell them, hey, listen, you know, this will, and you can upload this into your, they all use transaction desk, I'm assuming?
Transaction, yeah.
So you upload this in the transaction desk after they
That's where you
sign.
got that form from?
This is, yeah, well, I go right into transaction desk, and I do the contract.
So you do it like even before you have,
Yeah, it takes 10 minutes.
yeah.
Which
Just
is
go in.
number one issue.
Yeah, just go in, you get the listing contract together, and you just do this, okay? You say, hey, listen, okay, I'm gonna go back to the office, I'm gonna get this uploaded into the system. And then in about an hour or two, I'm gonna go ahead and, depending on what your schedule looks like, I'm gonna go ahead and get you some other documents. So if there's an HOA, you're gonna have an HOA disclosure. You know, you're gonna have what they call a residential data sheet. Okay, that sheet takes you a little bit of time to do, because it's going through the entire property. So there's some other documents that I'm gonna send over to you, and of course you have the IVR cooperation form that you have to get signed as well. So there's gonna be some other documents I'm gonna send you, but I'm gonna send it to you via DocuSign, and then all you have to do is go and press a button, and you'll get that all signed up pretty quick, and then we can have this thing listed for you in no time. But in the meantime, we're gonna schedule a photographer, because that day, when you leave that house, you're gonna call the photographer up, hey, or go online. I don't know who they use, but I go right online, just schedule the photographer, and you can do it right there. Say, hey, listen, schedule a photographer, what day's gonna be good for you? Now they're already like, this guy's moving, right? So you bring your computer, you set up the photographer, you know, is there anything else that you need from me that's gonna help, you know, you get things done? Do you need a carpenter? Do you need an electrician? Do you need, you know, I have all these connections here that can get you, you know, some referred. So you really give them, you know, the feeling that you are the expert. Like you have all the connections, you have all the tools they're gonna need to make sure that their property is sold for the highest and best price. So, any questions? I know that was a lot to go through, but it's really important. I mean, you're listing your, like I said, your customized marketing program is probably one of it's gonna be the most impressive piece of your, you know, the work that you're gonna do for this client. Because everything else is things that you do every day. Right?
Monotonous stuff.
What's that?
I said it's just like monotonous stuff you do.
Yeah, it's just stuff that you're gonna do every day, but it's not stuff that they do every day, right? People don't know what it takes I mean, I've encountered a lot of, and I don't talk about other agents, but I've encountered a lot of different types of ways of selling homes, and a lot of times, a I'll find that, oh, somebody gets a listing and they plop a sign in the front yard and
Bye-bye.
Say it again.
so then you go on and you look at a home, like for example, I'm listing a home I visited a home yesterday, Legends. There's one that's almost exactly the same house, it's been sitting on the market for 60 days. Why? Why is it still sitting on the market for 60 days? There's something wrong. There's nothing wrong with the house, I mean, I went and looked at it. That's the other thing I do when I go, before a listing appointment, I go look at houses surrounding that might be for sale, but similar, so I can go and feel it, and touch it, and see it, and go, hey, but this one looks a little bit different here, especially when you get into these communities that are like cookie cutter,
Yeah.
because all the houses they all seem to be pretty much the same floor plan inside, they might have different tile, they might have this, so you can go look at it and talk about it, so like, the one I listed it for 85, the one that's a block over, the same exact house was listed at 475, it bolted on the golf course, that was $10,000, I got an offer in this morning already.
Really? Wow.
So, it wasn't where it needs to be, but
At least it, you
Yeah,
got your
okay.
guarantee, yeah.
Is that guaranteed?
I got an offer, one day,
Wow.
one day.
If you list right and you do everything, the steps, you should get an offer like within the first week. Like it's,
Okay, I got the Margaritaville property, I got an offer in on it in 5 days.
yeah,
There's other ones that are in there that are listed for less,
and 200 plus.
that haven't had any offers, they've been on the market for 180 days.
So what do you think that is? Is that because of their marketing plan? They're just not even doing nothing? They're just set and forget it?
I'm
You
not,
got, you
I'm
gotta
not-
know what you're selling.
I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna say, I don't know what the issue is, because there's so many factors, especially when it comes into like vacation rentals. Like, is it booked? Can nobody see it? There's just so many factors that come in. Maybe the owners that have it, they're, for example, his particular guy that he sold to Mario, if he could sell it tomorrow, he probably would.
Yeah.
Because he didn't make any money. But why didn't he make any money?
External factors.
Right? I don't know, I don't know. But he has a P&L when somebody asks for it, because a lot of times a lot of investors say, hey, can I see the financials from last year? And then they go and look at his financials, they're gonna be like, no,
Yeah.
this ain't making money, right? But they do make money.
Yeah.
You just have to know how to.
I have clients that own in there, and I've sold 28 of them that make money. But they're making money because they're with the right management company.
Gotcha.
They do what you're telling them to do, basically.
Gotcha.
Well, yeah, you can give them guidance.
Guidance.
Like, so I say, Dan was good, but he just doesn't have the bandwidth that like LR does. So like LR in Margaritaville, their marketing plan is
Oh, yeah. Oh.
just, their marketing plan is phenomenal. So they get, and they're a good neighbor, they have a good neighbor strategy, so they're tied in with Disney. So anything that's overflowed from Disney gets sent to Margaritaville, so you go into the cottages. So I mean, they're tied in the convention center, so when they have conventions out there, they market it to all the conventionees that come out. So LR's just got a lot, they've got a value proposition.
Yeah.
And the other thing that this particular presentation does for you is it negates all of that. Will you do it for 2%? Will you do it for 1%? No. No, do you see what I'm gonna do for you? Why am I gonna take a pay cut after all the things that I'm gonna promise you? I've guaranteed you that I'm gonna sell your home and I'm gonna sell it for the highest and best price, and those are all the steps I'm gonna take. If you can go with a 1% broker, but you're gonna get a 1% broker.
You get what you pay for.
I mean, it's really that simple. So, I mean, and I don't know if you guys, I think that Noah should probably research a little bit.